more than 100 unique styles of beer, each with their own set of ingredients, process, guidelines, history, and experience. If you're a beer lover, an industry leader, or somewhere in between, a better knowledge of beer style will improve your life and your work.
Welcome to A Sense of Beer Style, essential beer style training for those who want to lead in food and beverage. I'm Julia Herz.
And I'm Jeremy Storton.
We're advanced Cicerones, beer judges, home brewers, and we're excited to guide you through the vast and wonderful world of beer styles.
Welcome back, everyone. Hey, Julia.
Hello, hello.
Today we are going to we're talking about the general category of strong American ales, but today's sub-style is basically the American strong ale. And this is interesting because this is not really a style. This is not really a sub-style. It is a sub-style, but it's not. And what I mean by that is this is just a catch-all beer style for styles that they're just strong, they're ales, they're American, but we didn't know really where else to put them. We have a double IPA category, we've got a barley wine category, we've got a wheat wine category. What do you do if you end up with a double red or a double amber or a double pale or something like that? Well, this is an American strong ale, and there's a historic connection to the old ales of England and the stock ales, or the ales you just have on hand. They're stronger, so they could sit around and last a little bit longer. And that was something that we brought over from our ancestors and from the old world to the new world. But that practice just kind of fell off. But in the vein of we Americans love bigger, badder, stronger, better than before, kind of like the $6 Million Man, for those of you of a quote unquote certain age, this is that beer style. So this is the American strong ale. Let's get into it. Let's start talking about the ingredients.
Sure. And I'm going to up you one and talk about Bionic Woman.
Of course.
I think it was Lindsay Wagner, which
yes,
is
it
amazing.
was.
And what a great show if you are of a certain generation. And so, this is a bit bionic, right? Because this is more about a flavor profile than a dedicated style. That's what the style guidelines importantly point out. So when I say the characteristics ingredients, it's kind of it's a catch-all, because there's a lot of outliers to what people would put or brewers would put into the beers to have them be considered American strong ales. But, you've got your pale base malt, typically American or English pale malt is what would likely be used. And then you've got maybe some dark crystal or some caramel malts used, and then American or New World hops. And then you've got English ale yeast. I mean, it's kind of anything goes from there. It's more about where it really lands in the flavor profile and vital stats, to then not be an American amber or red ale, to not be a double IPA, to not be an English or American barley wine. So to me, this is a interesting style that you can't really say, frankly, it's even not fair to serve it always to people in blind tastings, because you might put it with one of those other styles anyway. But the difference is that this is going to be strong, bitter, and, malty, but not quite all the way to that American barley wine.
Yeah. So let's talk about appearance. So we are going to contradict ourselves throughout this, because this, like I said at the beginning, the subcategory is a catch-all. So when we talk about numbers, when we talk about this is what the style should be, well, for those of you who are the beer referees and have your yellow flag to throw out on the field, okay, just hold on and bear with us. This is a little bit more fair game to interpretation. This is a little bit more of an art. So when we get into appearance, what the BJCP 2021 guidelines tell us is that we can expect a medium amber to a deep copper to light brown color. And if you're looking at my beer on the screen, and if you're not, then I'll explain it to you, but I've got a little light. You see how when I shine a light behind it, it's really this beautiful red. That's the background color. But when you put a bunch of red together and look through a bunch of it, it kind of starts turning brown and even really dark. So give it a little bit of a grace. If it doesn't fit quite perfectly within these style guidelines, give a little bit of grace and just drink it and enjoy it. But we are looking for those colors. It should have a good clarity. Shouldn't necessarily be brilliant. We're not going to read through the glass on this one, but a good clarity nonetheless. We are looking for a medium low to medium off-white head. There's enough hops in here that and other things that should have a good head. But remember, if you remember from other style casts, sometimes when we have elevated alcohol, that doesn't go well with foam propagation. So there's you can have a little bit one way or the other here. So again, give a little bit of grace, but it should be light tan. With a low retention. Mine is actually holding on pretty well. And if you really want to get into it, you talk to people in the wine industry or even alcohol, and you tilt the liquid on the side, you can see some of those alcohol legs, just this viscosity that drips down the side. You can see those too in these beers. They're big, they're viscous. So that's what we're looking for. Let's talk about the aroma.
Aroma it is, and it's going to lead with hops. Medium to high hop aroma is what is typical, and we love those flavors of those American or New World hops of citrus, floral, pine, resiny. We say it every show practically on these styles. Tropical fruits, melon, berries, etc. If that's not enough to want you to try it, then I don't know what is. So be open-minded, and if you haven't had this style, please do consider it. Knowing that it leads with those flavor profiles are in the aroma, absolutely. And moderate to bold maltiness. So it's got more balance there than, say, a double IPA. It's got more of that malt that's going to showcase than the hops first and the malt in the backdrop. It's more of a balanced interplay and dance going on between the two of them. And you might get some essence of the caramel malts or crystal malt. So dark to medium caramel common. You've got a sense of medium, at least, if not more, dark caramel. Sorry, I can't even say it. Indicated in what you're going to smell. You're not going to want this ever to go to roast. That's one of the key differentiators of this style. Even if it looks dark in the glass, it's not going to go to roast. It can go to caramel, as I said, but toasty in the aroma is also acceptable, but no roast. Is really what you're after, or at least light roast or very, very low. And then you've got some essence of esters from a ale yeast fermentation. And then you're definitely going to get a hint of the alcohol, but it's not going to be aggressive.
Yeah, and a lot of that translates over into flavor as well. But like you said, this is not a hop forward style. If anything, it's balanced. So but it's a big beer. So we're looking for a medium to high malt. We're looking for flavors of caramel, toffee, dark fruit. Sometimes you can have a low to moderate, toasty, bready. I love that word Maillard. You have all these just the rich, complex sugar flavors that come through there. You can get a little bit of chocolate, and forgive me, Julia, I'm going to contradict you just a skosh, but I think you can get just a touch of roast. It shouldn't be a porter. It shouldn't be a stout. It shouldn't be acrid or burnt, but just a touch of roast that just kind of makes you think, ooh, we got right on the edge. We got that little black bubble on our pizza. Frankly, I think that's okay. But it should never be burnt. It should never be harsh. No beer should be harsh. No beer should be a test of faith and toughness. It all should just be enjoyable. But now when we get to the bitterness, it should be medium high to high. Again, big beer, everything's medium to high. The hop flavor, medium to high, mostly American, like old school American, citrus, piney, foresty. But there is more use of New World hops or tropical hops these days. But pay attention to how well those hop flavors match the intensity of the malt. If there is a touch of chocolate and roast, how well do they work? Pay attention to just the pairing within the beer itself. That's an interesting study to consider. When we get into the esters, we can have esters coming from malt. We can have esters coming from the yeast, esters coming from hops. These are those fruity flavors, and so those balance out as well. I expect a little bit more alcohol out of this. I expect that wonderful little, for me, it usually manifests as like a little peppermint spicy pop right in the mid palate. I expect that there. It doesn't have to be there, but I'm looking for it. And as far as that bitter to sweet, everything, it is pretty well balanced. These can be a little bit assertive for a new craft beer drinker. I remember the first time I had one of these, and it was like, "Oop, nope, not for me." These days have changed. I love these. Um, we don't want these to be big. We don't want them to be syrupy. We don't want them to be overly malted and just cloying and frankly annoying. But these are just big behemoths of beer. So let's talk about the mouthfeel while we're at it.
And that's a perfect baton pass because that closing that you were just talking about on the flavor leads to the mouthfeel. Despite the fact that you don't want it cloying or syrupy or too big, it is medium to full body. That's what I love about beer. Beer can have advanced body instead of just have to
Yeah.
be light and spritzy. And that is very satisfying and filling and fulfilling, right? That's
Oh,
where beer
that's a great
shines.
way of saying it.
Yeah. So medium to full body is acceptable. Don't let that fool you though and have you talk yourself out of one because you could have 2 or 3 of these and not be like, I can't eat my meal. No way. Medium to full body just means the weight on the tongue and the satisfaction level to me. So alcohol warmth may be present. It shouldn't be harsh or over the top. And then you're going to have some astringency, particularly from the hops. So tannins definitely are at the table. Polyphenol and tannins, a little bit of grippiness from the
Mhm.
heavy hand of using hops, and then medium low to medium carbonation. I would argue that I don't want these cast strength. I would like my American Strong Ale with some carbonation that helps balance it and dry it out a little, right? That carbonic bite is very good. So I would want it with medium carbonation, even though medium low is definitely allowed.
Yeah. So when we talk about comparing this to other styles, well, right out of the gate, one of the things we're going to compare this to would be an American barley wine. Both are malt and hop balanced. I would say this American Strong Ale as a general category is going to be a little bit more balanced, maybe with a little bit more lean toward the hops, whereas American barley wine is going to be stronger, richer, have more emphasis on the complexity of the malt and a little bit more lean to the malt. Still balanced, but they're similar. Just let's say the American barley wine is bigger and leans more toward malt. When we talk about American double IPA, well, this is going to be darker and have more malt balance, where the double IPA is going to be lighter in color and flavor and a little bit more hop centric. Um, we can also compare this to an English strong ale. American strong ale, English strong ale. They should be first distant cousins. Well, typically, and this is a fantastic rule of thumb that holds up more often than not, but British versus American, British is going to be more malt forward, have more British ingredients, more British style hops, and Americans are just going to be a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger, and a little bit more toward the bitterness of American hops. So that's a great little comparison right there. Let's talk about some of the commercial examples of what you can expect if you're looking to try and find one of these.
Absolutely. And many of you might be already holding one, but the style that I got to know, and many of us, and Jeremy's holding it right there, is Arrogant Bastard Ale from Stone Brewing Company out of Southern California. I mean, it really set the stage. You can find it in 6 packs. You've got a tall boy can in your hand. And then Fatheads Bonehead, I have not had, but anything Fatheads does, originally out of Ohio, go find their beers and get them and enjoy them. And then you've got Oscar Blues Goodnight. 5 minutes out the window to my back shoulder is Oscar Blues, the original one. And it's such a fun one to really have, and they still make it to this day. Port Brewing out of California, Shark Attack Double Red Ale, which
I
I think
love
says
that name.
something. Right. And the double red ale aspect really tells you that, amber ales, red ales helped inspire this style. So did American IPA. So it's kind of a mashup. And Jeremy would talk about the love children of different styles with each other. And that to me is it. And then also the style guidelines list Great Lakes, which is an incredible brewery. I can't even pronounce it. I haven't had it. Nosferatu.
Nosferatu. That was the
There you go.
original vampire before Dracula.
Oh my gosh, I've seen that movie. How
Yeah,
dare me not get that
Nosferatu.
pronunciation. Total classic, black and white, I believe pre-1930s even.
Yeah,
Watch that movie and get Great Lakes,
and drink the
American
beer.
Strong Ale. Yeah,
That
there you
that
go.
is an excellent Friday night.
That's right.
Let's talk about some numbers. When we get into the ABV of this American Strong Ale, remember this is a catch-all. So again, those of you who are the beer referees, you got your yellow flag in your hand, ready to throw. Set the flags down. These are just guidelines, and we just have to kind of uh, pick the middle and know that that beers can survive outside of this and still be within the style. So again, just relax, give a little bit of grace to the style. ABVs, we're looking at 6.3 to 10. That's quite a range. 6.3 is slightly elevated, where you may not even know the difference, and 10 is well within barley wine territory. So it covers quite a bit of ground with the style. IBUs could be 50, where we notice the hops. It's very hop centric, it's very balanced, all the way up to 100, where if by bitterness terms, that's very aggressive. Keep in mind when we talk about these international bitterness units, when we get up to 100, usually these beers that are higher IBU tend to be a little bit more balanced. They tend to be a little bit more drinkable because, if the hops get bigger, so does everything else. And so they can be pleasantly enjoyable. When we talk about color, in the US, we use the SRM scale, standard reference method. We're looking at 7 to 18. If you look at my beer and the screen, it's quite dark. And then when I hold a light up behind it, it's quite red, which puts us in around 15 territory, copper or so. So that still falls within there. But if it's darker, so what? Drink it. It's enjoyable. If you're a European Brewery Convention or EBC person, we're going to double those numbers, 14 to 36, thereabouts. When we get into original gravity, again, for consumers, no one really cares about original gravity. Brewers do. You and I do. If you're listening and watching, you care. But we're looking at 1062 to 1090. That's a big original gravity. That has a lot of sugar potential. And if that attenuates all the way down, then we're going to get into the final gravity, which is 1014 to 1024. Holy moly. Now we've got some body to this beer. We're in the teens to the mid 20s. We've got body, baby. And there's a lot we can do with this. To warm yourself up on a cold winter night, to pair with some wonderful food we'll talk about in a minute. For the Play-Doh people, we're looking at 15.5 to 22.5 for original Play-Doh, and final Play-Doh, 3.5 to 6. But those are some numbers to think about. And just remember, just a quick harken back to the IBUs. It's all about the perception of bitterness, not just the number on the board. So consider all of that when we get into this. But let's talk about glass and temp.
So glassware and temperature do matter. I would say on the temperature side, I don't need this at 38 degrees Fahrenheit, super cold American
Really?
international lager temperatures out of the fridge temp. I want this warmer, but not all the way to full ale, cask ale temperatures. You wanted, I'm thinking 45 degrees Fahrenheit, 7 some odd Celsius would be very nice, because
Yeah.
that would give it an opportunity to have all of those hops be volatilizing out of the glass, and the malt showcase even more bright because of the warmer temps, but it's still definitely cooler. So I'm going with that 45 degree range. And then the glassware is an interesting one, because I mean, you can definitely drink pints and pints of this. We're anti-pint glass here. It's at Sense of Beer Style
Shaker
Land.
pint, just to be clear.
Yeah. Shaker pint, thank you, and good correction. So I always go back to the cheat of a standard Willie Becker, an English pub ale with the handle and then the dimpled glass.
Yep.
That to me is what I could drink this, but I would maybe serve it with 12 ounces at a time instead of 16, kind of thing, or 8 ounces to 12 ounces, not all the way to 16 at once, and then I can have 2 or 3. So yeah, I'm not going to take it too seriously, but to me, that would give me the most enjoyment for American Strong Ale. And that then brings us to the meal.
Yeah, if you're going for a beer like this, then just give it all the pomp and circumstance you can. Get a good glass, good meal. Now, so this one is a little bit hard because this is a catch-all style, so it could be anything. It could go off in different directions. So I'm going to base this off of the Stone Arrogant Bastard, for example, as the iconic classic. And because this is big, bitter, and a bit aggressive, I want something equally big and savory. I want stew. I want braised short ribs. This would be, we're recording this a couple weeks before Thanksgiving. This would be fantastic for Thanksgiving. It would be great with ham, great with turkey, great with stuffing and mashed potatoes and all that stuff. That would be a fantastic time to break one of these out and share it with those of you who love good beer. What about you, Julia?
I actually love that suggestion. As you're talking, I can envision it, brown gravy, right? For
Oh,
turkey,
yeah.
if you're in the States, and mashed potatoes are kind of just a backdrop, a vehicle for your for your gravy.
Yeah.
And think about this beer and any beer or beverage, it could be augmenting sauces, right? Stocks. So I would
Butter.
cook with this. I would add this to the gravy. I would
Hmm.
have a American strong ale gravy, and you're going to maybe have some carryover those hop flavors, but that's okay. That's almost like sprinkling some herbs on top of the mashed potatoes, and then turkey to me too is a backdrop for the gravy, and it's a very neutral kind of whiter meat. And so I love the idea of the malt, the pale malt base from this, and some of those crystal or caramel malts bridging and linking into the actual aspect of the turkey with the gravy on top.
Yeah.
You got to have gravy, or I'm not going to Thanksgiving. That's for
Well,
sure.
and you bring up a good point. Be careful about cooking with a beer like this, because when you cook with a beer, the hops kind of potentiate and really get drawn out in undesirable ways. However, this would be a fantastic beer to brine your meat or your turkey with and really get those
Yes.
flavors infused without that aggressive alcohol or hops. Brining your meat in this beer would be fantastic. Cooking with it, no, careful. I would say no. But
Deep cut on the internet, y'all, for listening, and Jeremy's sake too, because I don't think I brought this up. You Google "tipsy turkey" Julia Herz, and we've got a great video on brining your turkey. And it was a recipe inspired by Chef Sean Paxton, who is a prolific beer chef. And tipsy turkey is the way to go. Brining your turkey in beer, and I so see American strong ale having a role in that.
perfect. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Otherwise, grab the beer, have a wonderful feast with us, and cheers.
Yes, cheers to y'all. Be well.
Thank you for listening to A Sense of Beer Style, the essential beer style training for those who want to lead in food and beverage. With advanced Cicerones, me, Julia,
And me, Jeremy.
tune into the next episode as we continue exploring the world of beer styles and what to make of them. We encourage you to listen to the prepisodes to build your foundation and better understand beer styles.
And before the next episode, I'd like to ask you to review the show and let us know what you'd like featured in upcoming episodes. Until next time, here's to you and your sense of beer style. Thank you for listening. Cheers.
Cheers.